Okay, we're working. Welcome to our weekly stream on everything game design. Sorry, we are very late. We had some major technical issues after spending how long did we spend yesterday? An hour trying to
Hour,
get
yeah.
trying to
Hour and a bit, yeah.
perfecting our audio, and we logged on today, and what happened? I don't know. Anyway, my
Everything was bad.
name's my name's Chris, and I'm here with Fraser
Hello.
and Charlie.
Hey guys.
So yeah, we're here, but I'm a little bit stressed. I don't know about you guys. I'm a bit stressed.
No, I'm feeling
Oh,
fine.
Yeah, feeling good now. Time to calm down, cool down. We got
time
through
to
our hard
cool.
tech stuff. We're
Uh,
here.
just
Made it.
just just have a little cry and a bit throw a tantrum. There were a few curse words said before as we're trying to get on. But that's life, I guess, with technology, isn't it? What can we
You'd think
do?
it'd be easy in the big 25, but it's still painful.
Yeah,
You,
you'd think there'd
you,
be a big unified software that people could just click onto and streaming's easy.
well, it is. That's exactly what we have. But I was wondering whether was it because we use Video Ninja we were using, which is a free and open source piece of software. I would recommend. Well, I would have recommended to everyone apart from what we just had. I was wondering whether maybe one of their competitors had tried to bring them down or something. Is that possible? Microsoft or someone
Maybe.
decided to try and do something.
They suffered a
Free?
cyber attack last night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. Free, open source. How dare you? How dare you not screw everybody for every last cent that they have? So, but we're here now anyway. So,
Yeah.
how's your week been apart from all the technical issues we've got?
Well, on that note of Microsoft, I did have one of the rare Microsoft wins, I suppose,
Ooh.
where I needed
Ooh,
to
do
scan
tell.
some images from a printer, and so I had the printer plugged in via USB, and it was like it's been ages since I've scanned anything, and I was like, how do I scan it? And I googled, and it's like you can use all these like printer software packages apps, and I'm like, I know those are bad, and then it said Windows Fax and Scan, and sure enough, I found Windows Fax and Scan, which looks ripped right out of 2002, and it worked perfectly because it is old and it just
Yeah,
scanned
I
it
don't
and
think they've
saved the
touched it since
documents.
2002, but it works.
And I was like, you know what? I'm glad that was there. It's so small on my hard drive, but built in, so much better than downloading a bloody printer app just to download. Yeah.
That's what it's like using Linux. Everything looks like it comes from 1995 to 2005. But it generally works. So maybe you'll be joining the Linux crew soon,
Yeah,
Fraser.
we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, Jeffrey's here. Jeffrey, welcome.
Windows legacy products are the top thing they have. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I agree with that.
None of their new crap.
Yeah, not the new crap. I always go the legacy stuff now if I need it.
Particularly the AI stuff they're trying to shove down your throats. Goodness me.
Oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
And Charlie, any interesting game related news yourself?
No game related news. You may have noticed that I'm at a different angle this stream. I found a way better way to stream myself via my phone through free open source software, so that's a win. And I did just buy a new mic, so I should be sounding better in the next 2 weeks or so.
Looking
Ah,
forward to it.
so what did you buy? What did you get online? I'm assuming.
Yeah, online. After a bit of watching a few reviews and watching people do the sort of mic stand versus boom, sound reviews, and what I was focused on was the pop test where people would go pop, pop into their mic, and you'd hear the crackling. But I settled on one. I've never heard of the brand, but Fifine, the model's K688. It's like a one that comes on a boom. It looks pretty good, pretty decent. Like
Cool.
$120, $130. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So we'll look forward to that. But you're sounding pretty good
Yeah.
today, actually.
Am I? Yeah. Well,
After
I've got some extra audio filters on these ones, so
nice, it seems. I think it seems to be working.
Yeah, yeah. Well, after all the testing we did yesterday, I'm glad that that's the case.
Wasn't all for nothing after
Yeah.
20 minutes late.
Yes, yes, yes. So we had some audio issues that I'm gonna look into later and find out what the hell is going on. But well, we're actually streaming video through Video Ninja and the audio through Discord. So this is a diverse stream, I think you would have to say. Discord and video working together.
And OBS. And Twitch.
OBS. And Twitch. And not just Twitch, we've also got, don't forget, we've got that other streaming platform, well-known streaming platform, YouTube.
I thought you were going to say YouTube for a second. I was like, wait, are we not allowed to say?
I did say YouTube, didn't I? We're not allowed to say YouTube.
Yeah. Hey, you built it up like it wasn't going to be left unnamed. I was like, oh.
Oh, sorry. No. YouTube. Of course, YouTube. So today, we're going to look, we're actually going to finish off something we've been looking at for the last couple of weeks. So we've been talking about guiding the player through games, essentially. And we've looked, 2 weeks ago, we looked at Mirror's Edge. Last week, we looked at Stray. 2 very different games that do things in very different ways. And today, I'm going to take you through, my favorite game at the moment, the game that I kind of love to hate, 7 Days to Die, which does things very, very differently. So we're going to do that first. And then Fraser's going to introduce us to someone who, I don't know about you, but I'd never heard of before.
We got a special guest coming in. That's what the ominous 4th slot is for in the, in the setup.
So this person has perhaps inspired some of the movies and games that you love. So we'll look at that in the last half of today's stream. But first up, let's have a look at 7 Days to Die. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, is it that one? There we go. I redid my Stream Deck the other day, so forgive me if I have to relearn where all the buttons are. But this is 7 Days to Die, and we are focused on essentially how these different games guide the player, particularly around the game world. But I've gone a little bit more in 7 Days to Die because it's a different game to the other 2. It is an open world RPG, I guess you'd say, RPG. And one of the games I love to hate. But let's jump in maybe, and the first piece of footage I've got is where you start off in the world. So I won't say too much, but I would love to hear people's comments on what they think and what you guys think, Fraser, Charlie, about how 7 Days to Die actually does what it does. So this is the opening screen. You can see that. So spawn in a random location. This is starting out. We will spawn in a random location. Let's hit play.
This is the starting screen. And then it asks you to spawn in a random location. It's very I don't know, sterile, isn't it? In a way to introduce a game.
A little bit. I did mention that it's very much not perfect.
Yeah. All right, so you start with a note, green text telling you to read. So this is, let's just very quickly look at this. So at the top right hand corner we're in the Pine Forest. There's a tutorial challenge there. We've got open challenges window 0 of 1. Open the challenges window with Y. And then in the middle we've got a note from the Duke of Navezgane. That's where we are, or Navezgane. I think that's where we are. That contrast for the text is awful. Sorry, Jeffrey. I wish I could change that, but that's beyond my power. So just a friendly reminder that you pay on time every time, or there will be consequences. Next time we won't be so nice. Thanks for the gear, but you still owe us. See you soon, the Duke. So this is setting the scene.
Interesting.
Interesting. What do you mean interesting? That sounded like a loaded comment if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. No, it's
So now you just left your own devices, are you, with the single sort of tutorial challenge?
Well, let's. What do you think of the tutorial and stuff so far? We only just started out, but so.
Well, it's hard to tell. I'd say, you know, pretty
All right, well,
basic
that's
at
all
the
right.
minute. It's also in your face text just on the corner, like, well, not so much in your face, but it's the only thing to read
Mhm.
there.
We can keep going.
First impressions is it's pretty minimal.
Uh huh. Should we keep going, and then maybe once you've seen a bit more, you can
yeah.
Yeah, let's keep going.
make some more comments.
I feel like this gameplay really speaks to the era which the game was released in.
Just punch things to get stuff done.
They appear to have designed this tutorial for a player base with expected knowledge from Jeffrey. Yeah.
What sort of
I think
expected knowledge
there's-
do you mean?
I can see it. I mean, I think there's an interesting sort of wake left by Minecraft, which is,
Yeah.
maybe unsurprising considering the scale of the game. But like Minecraft, it was originally made with no tutorial, right? It was just you get dropped in this sandbox world, and over time they've had to try and think about how they can tutorialize it. But also there's this massive culture around Minecraft of like looking things up, finding guides online, finding crafting recipes, and also I don't know, there's a big culture of like having watched Minecraft maybe before you've even played it, or watching Minecraft and then getting ideas for how to play it. And it feels similar here, where it's like there's a lot of information for like the first tutorial thing, but given sort of the genre, I kind of expect to either look things up or have some prior knowledge coming into it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't say if someone were to be dropped in this world who has no knowledge of these games and all they see is those little sort of yellow icons over things. Like, I didn't even see a tutorial on like what button to press to interact. What was there? Did I miss that? Like, people might wander around a bit aimlessly if they didn't have that expected knowledge of collect and craft.
What button to press to interact? I mean, can't we assume that these days as game developers, designers?
I like to think so, but I time and time again I see that people don't actively test their controllers for buttons for some reason.
Do we also need to tell them to use like WASD to move around? I mean, are we still there?
I think
We
we might
shouldn't have to.
I actually think we might be coming back to needing to do that.
Yeah.
For a lot of kids growing up,
Really?
their introduction to games is going to be on things like iPads and phones, where the default
That's
controls are vastly different. So
Yeah.
I think, we're going to enter, this new generation getting older and getting into PC gaming, and they're going to be like, wait, where's my little dial? Where's my little on-screen
where's my
joystick?
on-screen touch thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, I have had friends' kids who are very used to obviously using the touchpads, and they get a book, and they're like, why does the book not
Okay.
respond like a paper, a traditional book? And they're swiping, and it's not doing anything. So it's just quite funny.
I mean, I've seen kids do it to the PC. They'll like touch my screen to try and move things around. It's like it's not a touch screen. But a book is another level.
Mm. Well, that's the expectation. They grew up like for a lot of kids, their first interaction with text and everything is an iPad or a tablet.
Is on an interactable screen, yeah.
Yeah.
So they get picture book, and it's like, oh, how come? Oh, what's going on? Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I think with that in mind, there probably is going to be a new way to sort of define how to teach players to play. Expect it, like unless we start making everything for iPads and touchscreens.
Oh no, we're not doing that. Not while I'm still alive. No way.
No, I agree with you there. Yeah.
When I'm dead, you can do that. How's that sound? So
It's an interesting state that the game is in. I keep comparing it to Minecraft, but you know, it's like the open world survival crafting nature of it makes me really feel like it wants to be more sandbox, but over time it's turned into something that it is more quest based. Seeing like the
Ooh.
exclamation marks show up and
Mhm.
you know, getting points and stuff for completing quests and whatnot. It's an interesting mix. I feel like,
Mm.
yeah, not knowing much. I mean, I know a bit about the game now, but if you didn't, I could imagine being able to see it and be like, oh, this game has been developed for a long time. It's seen a lot of different trends come and go.
You are completely correct there, Fraser. That's very well observed. And in fact, it
Mm.
started out really as it was a DayZ clone, but like DayZ mixed with Minecraft. So you can mine, you actually have to go and mine the world and get in, and actually dig things up and find ore and stuff like that. So it very much is that. It's quite a unique game in that respect.
Yeah, I was about to say that I do see this style of sort of introduction for a lot of games like this. And this watching this reminds me of my time playing The Forest when that first came out, um, being that sort of sandboxy thing. And I do find that all these types of games seem to fall into this avenue of, as you said, Fraser, the quest-based sort of progression, teaching progression, because you can't really figure stuff out until you just like follow the on the screen, in this case the top right hand corner that says you what to do, and you sort of progress that way to learn controls and systems, um, which is funny because it's kind of against the nature of these sandbox, do what you want games. um, yeah,
Yeah, it seems to be
I
like
wouldn't say that's
a
necessarily a bad thing, but just a
no.
sort of, none of them really do it differently.
It feels like it's when you have a sandbox and you start to add more complex interactions and systems, it understandably becomes more confusing, and so it feels like maybe
Yeah.
one of the only effective ways to onboard people is to have these really intense tutorials, and then
Mm.
yeah, I guess there's just a game design wisdom there where it's like, well, you make them quest based so you can break that tutorial up into bite-sized chunks and give players
Yeah.
rewards and that satisfaction. And yeah, just like um convergent evolution, I suppose.
What are your thoughts on that? So we've seen the tutorial now. We've got to the trader. So this is basically the first part of the tutorial, the first part of the game. I'm interested to hear your impressions or opinions of the tutorial.
I think it seemed to be okay. I think I would have been overwhelmed by a lot of the menus. Um, and I don't know. I like the basic gameplay feels familiar enough, and the sort of, upfront explicit quest is fine. But yeah, then there are certain aspects like the menus where it's like, oh, that feels like a lot to take on
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
first thing when I start the game.
Charlie, any?
Mhm. Yeah, I personally don't like this style of introduction to a game. I do really like the idea of having a specific area designed for introduction to show players specific things. And, it doesn't have to be so heavy handed, but it's sort of a shared space that everyone goes through. So you sort of know that everyone starts with the base knowledge, going further into the game. Things like this, people can they can go off track and miss stuff, especially because it is just text based in the corner. You could be, mindlessly following the point on the map and not really reading what you're doing, so then therefore kind of missing things. And I do think
Mm.
there's a lot of fun in creating an introduction to your game, um, which is kind of lost here. Yeah, because spawned at a random point, and I guess it does show the essence of what the game is. You're thrown into a random point, start learning the systems.
Doesn't it
Um,
doesn't it completely go against the whole idea of your tutorial being kind of part of the game? I mean, it's very, like you said, heavy-handed is a fairly good way of describing it. Like, it's not subtle at all.
No.
I think it goes a bit in hand with what Jeffrey's comment about, the quest being helpful for players who aren't quite so self-driven, players who need that guidance, like if the systems are complex and confusing, there'll be a portion of the player base that need very explicit, very firm hand-holding to get through the tutorial. So
And-
yeah.
And I agree with that. I just think there's probably a nicer way to do this, like I said, with a very tailored tutorial to get to. But at the same time, really structured and tailored tutorials, I find, isolate people who want to rush through and get in faster. So there is a really give and take of who you want to, which is ideally everyone, who you want to target for your intro and what info they soak up.
Can we compare it, say, to Stray that we looked at last week?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
how different. Like, Stray was to me, in many ways, is the ultimate minimalist, very, very little in the way of explication. Is that the word? It was all, within the world, and it all made sense within the world, and it didn't drag you out of the world you're in. Whereas I find this one, it's like, here's the manual. Read the manual.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect thing, is here's the manual play, where there's nothing diegetic about it. It's just like, you need to know these things to play the game. Go. And I wonder if you could make a tutorial for this kind of game very sort of within the world of it. It could probably just take a lot more planning.
I don't know. I feel like the systems are maybe too far, right? Like Stray
Yeah.
has very minimal mechanics, and the way they interact is very naturalistic, right? Like you meow to get the cat's attentions, you climb to navigate. There's and like further into the game, those things start to get sort of mixed to create that variety. But like, you don't really need much of a tutorial in Stray, and like natural player behavior is gonna lead them to progress through that first level in most cases anyway.
So is this game just too complicated to have a nice natural feeling tutorial within the game itself?
I don't know if I'd say too complicated, but definitely too abstracted, right? Like the systems that you're engaging with and the mechanics are, some of them are more naturalistic, like, smacking rocks with an axe to get stone. But, crafting and quest systems they can be done naturalistically, but yeah, they haven't here. And that to me sort of feels like what is the sort of differentiator point.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, the more complex systems you need to teach, the longer the tutorials need to be. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm personally not a big fan of super long tutorials, and I think a lot of people agree on that. So
yeah, I as a Yakuza gamer, I am having to get used to, like, the early Yakuza games. I don't know what it's like for the later ones, but the tutorials are like, here's 12 pages of text and images with diagrams drawn on top, and you can read the whole thing, you still won't understand how they interact. In Japanese, they use symbols like circles, triangles, and squares and X's to differentiate between like letter grades, like quality of things. And so there was one minigame in Yakuza 0 where they had all these symbols. Nowhere did they explain what the symbols meant, because they're like, it's a Japanese game. They know what that means.
Everybody knows.
And when it got translated, they just translated the text. And so I'm like, what does a circle and a circle mean? What is the difference between that and a triangle? And I had to go and look it up, and I was like, oh, wow. So, yeah, no, I mean, long tutorials do suck, but I at least am in the
Like,
camp where it's like once I get through to the other side, I will still really enjoy it. I'll just forget that I have
yeah,
to grind through it
yeah.
or go find a walkthrough.
And I think that's one of the hardest things. Is what do you do when you need to teach all these things for people to understand and actually enjoy your game?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you do have like a tutorial level, like I think about Mirror's Edge, has a tutorial level right at the start, but if you hit escape, you can skip it. But it's, we're talking about that idea of how do you communicate these sort of features to players. Some players will hate that they have to go through this really hand-holdy tutorial and never realize they could have just skipped it. Some players might skip it by accident when they really needed it. Like not only can we provide different options for players, but it's like how do we tell players that those options are there?
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, they've chosen, I guess, what I'd call the brute force method here is like you just like the text is right in your face. There it is. Do this, and yeah, no subtlety whatsoever.
yeah.
Which it worked. Look, from a purely practical point of view, it works, but it's not very. There's no subtlety there. It's not very pretty. I don't think it's very pretty at all. I think it's very awkward. I think it's very clunky. But hey, it does what it does. So we look at the next
Yeah.
part because this is kind of the final part of the intro. This is like the end of it. This
Yeah,
kind of
that's what the next
shows you. This is also an important thing. So you get introduced to the traders, which are an important part of the world.
Good morning when you buy something and get the fuck out of here. Wipe that smirk off your face. Doing one job doesn't make us pals. Got it? Oh, look who's tired of eating out of dumpsters and finally ready to do some work.
So again, not much subtlety. It does introduce you to the traders as well, and there's this. I think there's this sort of humorous, or at least trying to be humorous element there. I'm not a big fan because they tend to abuse you. I don't know where these guys, the developers, get off, but like literally, there's one of them I just don't want to go into because you just get abused all the time. But the traders are really important. It's important to understand the traders.
Yeah.
as
So
well.
they're like the quest system, are they? They handle you. You get your things and you go drop stuff off and
Yes, and you get
essentially finish and start quests.
Yes, exactly. In fact, we'll in the next video you'll see. This is the next one is a lot further on with a character that I've been playing for a while, and you'll see we actually start an entire quest and move on from that. So maybe we'll jump into that now, and I'll just do that. Swap that over. Apologies for the video being a little rough as well. I'm not sure. Hello. Oh, there you are. Okay. Also, apologies for this one. I started without the sound on, but I think it'll be okay. So this is yeah. So this is a lot further on in the game. This is actually sort of in the wasteland, which they've put all this progression in there, so you have to do various things to get this far. And you'll also notice in the left-hand bottom corner that I broke my leg. So I can't run. So I've got 14 real-world minutes for that to be fixed up. But what we're going to do here, we're going to start from the beginning of a quest. So how you get a quest, going right through to doing the quest, so we can see how we navigate our way to the quest and through the quest, back again, and sort of have a look at those different elements as well. So let's start.
Yeah. So straight off the bat, you've got the compass and you've got the waypoint in world in the middle of the screen.
What are your thoughts on those? Do you think is there a better way to do
I
that?
think
Or?
we're kind of one or the other. Like it's a bit over the top for me. But I'm very much an immersionist or something, is what you'd say. Where I like to be less menus the better in a game to make me feel in it.
I think if you're gonna have a compass, make it wider. I don't know why it's so squished to the middle.
Mm.
I think that might be trends again, is what you're saying. I think what you were saying before was right on the money. That this game has been in development since 2013, so that's 12 years now, and you can see a lot of different styles It's a little bit like Windows. You know, you were saying how you were using the Windows
Yeah,
scan
yeah.
and print from 1995. 7 Days to Die is a bit like that. So there's the later things that have been put in recently, and they have a certain aesthetic and a certain way of working. But then there's still stuff in there from 5, 6, 10, 12 years ago, which has an older aesthetic. It's interesting to see that. So this is how you get a quest. Go there, you select a quest.
So these are tiered things.
Mm-hmm.
So you choose a difficulty. Yeah, okay.
I'm scared that you're gonna just blast him. You're clicking through all these menus with your gun pointed right at him.
I mean, I have done, but unfortunately, he is impervious to any damage.
So the goal for the quest, is it just to get better loot, to become more powerful, more effective at existing in the world?
It's a whole progression system. So by going, you can go. You don't have to go to any of the traders, and the traders are actually a relatively recent addition. So it used to be you just go and live in the world and you go and explore things, and but I think maybe 4 years ago they brought the traders in, and the traders will give you a quest. Go and do X, Y, Z. You can see here you've also got a map as well, and that's the city.
Yeah.
And if you
do you think they added the traders for the larger player base to have more direction within the game?
I don't really know. It makes it quicker. One of the things against the traders, because if you do it through a trader, you can go through the same building. If you do it through a trader, you get extra XP, experience points, and you get extra money.
Okay.
And you also get an extra reward. So it means progression is faster, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think progression is too fast in this game now.
There's a very fine line between getting too powerful too quick and not feeling that progression, and it's something that I find playing like most RPG games, be it Kingdom Come or like Fallout or something. I always enjoy the first couple of hours of those games more than anything, because I'm just sort of weak, making my way in the world, and things feel dangerous. And as soon as the point where I become too powerful, I get bored.
So contrast that with another game that I really enjoy, similar to this, which was also a DayZ clone back in 2013. Yeah, I got hit.
Yep.
That was because I had to stop and check the map to check where I was going. But I often wonder, because Rust is a similar game, but is quite different as well. And in Rust, you don't have the RPG elements in that you don't build skills. So you're always, if you don't have gear, you are always very vulnerable. So if you lose everything in Rust, you're back to the start. Whereas in here, because you've got various skills and what have you, you can lose all your shit, but you still, you do a lot more damage with certain weapons and stuff like that. So I actually wonder whether this would be a better game if they took out the those sort of RPG elements, so the strength bonuses and stuff like that. I'd be quite interested to build a game which was like this, but which did not have those sort of bonuses in them.
Yeah, right.
I think it'd last longer. I think the playability, and if you take stuff off the player, so in Rust, the only way you get an advantage is if you have better gear, but you can always lose your gear.
Yeah.
But you're always vulnerable in Rust as well. So a beginner player can craft an Ioka pistol, like a really basic pistol, and you can still, if you're lucky, you can still kill a fully geared player and take all their shit. That's one of the benefits of Rust. That's one of the things that makes it really brutal, because you can lose all your crap to someone who's just spawned in.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about like the player fantasy there, and Charlie, you saying like enjoying the first few hours more because you're weak, and it's more of like a challenge. and I'm comparing that in my head to playing through Yakuza, where they have to constantly balance this idea of when you're playing as Kiryu, you are like the like renowned, feared Yakuza, like the Dragon of Dojima, but they have to, start you off weak and like let you
To
build
curb
up to
your
that.
power, yeah.
But I actually think it works really well because, it's maybe contrived sometimes, but like narratively it makes sense why you're weak at the start. And then you build up to the point of like sort of filling that role again, rather than what I think happens a lot in RPGs where it's like you are still expected to be really powerful from the beginning, but you don't feel it because you are weak. Or you get to become really powerful, but everyone still like will trick you, be like, "Oh, who's this scrawny punk?" And then you're actually like overpowered to hell because you did all the side quests.
Yeah. No, it's like I think if handled right, that's pretty okay because it's this Tears of the Kingdom does the same thing, right? It's a direct continuation of Breath of the Wild where players will end with max hearts and all the gear, but then narratively your arm's taken or something, I can't remember, and all your powers sapped. So it brings you back to that starting stage of you are the hero of legend,
Yeah.
but you're weak as hell at the start.
Yeah.
Actually, Half-Life 2 does it as well. Remember, Half-Life 2 episode, whichever one it is, where you go into the final big tower and it just takes all your shit.
Oh yeah, they take everything. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to do in a game.
Yeah. I think it's not just limited to games as well, right? Like that's any sort of media where it's a continuation, you need to figure out, wait, how do we tell the hero's journey again to someone who's already gone through it?
Yes. Well, that's part of, I think, in the hero's journey, that's sort of like, especially at late stages in story arcs or game arcs, that's kind of like, what do they call it? It's like the hour before the storm, everything seems hopeless. You've lost everything. It's all over. There's no light left in the terms of the hero journey. But then you make that final comeback, and it is more satisfying for it. So done in games, if done right, and not just feels like you're being everything taken from you, it can be really effective.
I just want to point out up the top there, you might notice there's another big sort of giveaway when you're doing
All the
these
red
quests.
markers?
Yeah, now
Yeah.
I'm still a bit undecided whether I think that's a good thing or not. Because as soon as you shoot something, it tells you where all the enemies are.
Yeah, which is kind of very immersion breaking in a sense. Like you are playing a game. You're not, you're not in this world, really. It was interesting when you were riding over. Actually, I noticed that you were constantly checking your map to find where you were going as well.
Yes, yeah.
But on top of that, you also had the waypoint marker on the middle of the screen and the compass going. So there's three things sort of battling each other to tell you where you're going.
So the problem in the cities is you have the cities, you have roads, and you have a lot of obstacles. So you actually have to check your map. You don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So the I guess the way I normally do it is the marker gives you, like, that you can see on your screen, tells you the sort of general direction.
Yeah.
But
doesn't the compass do that too?
Yeah, the compass does as well. But I probably use it more on screen. The compass, actually, if you look, hang on, right now. So if you look right now, the compass I usually use to tell me where my vehicle is, so you can see it's up there. Although you can see it twice there as well. So yeah, it is. There's a bit of redundancy built in, but redundancy, it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, it's definitely, the information is not being lost to the player. That's for sure.
But yeah, the showing the actual enemies, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, maybe enemies you hit could show up on the compass, but the ones you don't show up. Preserve some of the tension and the unknown aspect of how many are in the building, or at least nearby.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it sort of removes that, which adds a layer of excitement. Be it be it frightening excitement or not. But
Yeah.
yeah, and look, there they all are. You've hit one, and then you've got 5 more popped up, but you can't actually see them.
So what it removes though is that element of surprise where you can be jumped by an
Yeah.
enemy that you didn't realize was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems like this game would really benefit from something like that, right?
I think so.
Like it's a zombie game, and zombies are scary.
Yeah.
It reminds me playing Dark Souls 3 for the first time, and my friend who was a veteran and got me into it, being like, please go and either turn the HUD off or at least turn it onto cinematic. Because it's just, it's much more enjoyable without it. Maybe
Yeah, it is.
the health bar kind of important, which is why the cinematic mode is nice, where it turns it all off when you're moving around. But if you get in combat, it comes back. But
Do you know
Yeah.
what I would do with Dark Souls? I had a pot plant next to my TV with a leaf coming out, and I'll twist it so it would cover the amount of souls. So I never got
Oh.
the stress of losing too many souls.
that's fun.
And it actually worked so well. And every time I'd go to level up, I'd be like, holy crap, I have so many souls. I really
That's so
shouldn't have
cool.
taken that risk, but it worked.
Yeah, it's an interesting one about what you tell the player and what you hold back. I mean, I
Yeah,
do like
because it changes how they play.
absolutely, and I really again going back to Rust, which isn't it's similar. It's changed a bit now, but it used to be very minimal HUD. So there used to be almost nothing, and it was very much like just you were in the game world. There was no time. You didn't know what the time was. Whereas you look here, you got day 26, time 6:26. It's telling me lots of different things. Whereas I really like not knowing. I think not knowing just adds more in this sort of game.
Yeah, well, and it's like this omnipresent, reality of of information constantly at you is, it's a bit too gamey for me. I think one of the best things that the Metro series did was pulled all these things out and put them into the world. Like you had a watch, you could look at the time. You had then the compass to pull up and be like, "That's the way I'm going." And I felt that was a great way. So you still had access to all this detailed information of the world around you, but it was in a way that was grounded in the world that you're actually in.
Yeah.
And I think a game like this could really benefit from that. And
Yeah.
I don't know well, you said they've been working on this since 2013,
12 years. Yeah.
12 years. Yeah. So, and I assume they probably started. They were all pretty maybe young devs at the start.
Yeah, I think they were just like like any of us, and they just happened to make a game
Yeah.
that succeeded, and they've done what they've done, and I think they've done a good job. I mean, it's a good game,
Yeah.
but when
And
we
then
look
once
at
it's
it now,
good, you don't want to change it too much, right?
well, they're changing it over time, so you can make mistakes, but yeah, I mean, it's good to go through because we would make a different game now. Like I was saying before, I'd really like to do something which was like a combination between this and Rust, in that you don't have the sort of perks, and you can just be taken back to zero at any particular point in time. I think it would add something to this
Yeah,
game. And to minimize
I love
the
that
HUD and
idea
stuff.
of Yeah, no, I love that idea of being able to sort of put everyone on an even playing field. But the more the veteran players just have that sort of background knowledge of how to play, and that's
And
kind
skill.
of their arsenal. If they lose everything, and the skill, rather than just like, oh, my strength is 29 and yours is 1, so
Yeah.
I'm always gonna win.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering whether maybe we should sort of skip to the end, because we've been doing this for a while, and I mean, we can see the way that it guides you through. They use a lot of light. They use a lot of, like, you can see the light here. It's telling us how to go this way and stuff. So there's nothing really very much new in that respect, I don't think. There's not a lot in here. It's relatively subtle, but they do use a lot of light and brighter colors in different ways. Not as overwhelming maybe as the other games we've looked at recently. So if we remember looking last week at Stray, we had a lot of those
Yeah.
very
Yeah, light
obvious
all over the place.
signs. Yeah. And even, we're seeing runner's vision in Mirror's Edge. We're not getting anything like that. This is much more subtle. This is much more earthy and dark. So, but they use light
Yeah.
quite well.
What I'm picking up is the text and UI stuff guidance is very heavy-handed.
Yeah.
But just as you're saying, the world itself is pretty true to itself, which is nice. Like the muted tones and the darker areas, but like it is kind of clear on how to get around as I'm watching. You know, I'm not getting lost watching as just a viewer.
Yeah. In many ways, these have now become very linear. It's interesting because it's an open world game, and there's been a few YouTubers who have gone back and played. I think it was Alpha 16, from maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and where they didn't have this sort of linear progression through levels.
Mm-hmm.
So that has changed quite a bit. That was when it was more the open world kind of thing. So these are, the way they're guiding players through now is kind of new as well. But you're very unlikely to lose yourself.
Just eat a can of dog food. Eat
Absolutely.
2 cans of dog food.
2 cans of dog food. Yeah, absolutely. What else are you gonna do? You don't want to carry it around. Just eat dog food. So yeah, we can probably maybe leave it there. I think we've probably seen enough. Have you guys got any final comments or anything about 7 Days to Die?
No, like the shortcomings of the guidance, I think, do look outweighed by the gameplay itself. It looks fun. It looks intense and a lot of things to consider to get around. So no comment other than I probably want to try it.
I think it's a great game to discuss because of its history and how long it's been in development. It's like layers in a tree or in the earth, like digging back through time. You can start to date things and see how things change over time and what gets updated and what doesn't. So I love coming back to it.
Cool. Alrighty. So let's. What are we doing next? Fraser, I think.
Right.
You're up, aren't you? Yeah.
I have a little presentation put together. I need to move that.
Do I need to do anything, or are you sharing it with us?
I will share it on Discord.
Okay.
Is the plan, and then I need this, and then Discord. How do I play a slideshow?
Just share your screen. Yeah.
Yes, share screen.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's like just a button somewhere that says go, but I always lose it.
Top right hand corner, I think it is.
Yeah,
Slideshow?
one just says slideshow. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, hang on, just let me full screen that.
Yeah.
And we're getting very, very slick here. There we go.
Right. We happy? We ready to go?
We are ready to go. Yes, please take it away.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, as it says, have you guys played any of these games in particular?
Yeah, loved and played Cyberpunk, and loved and played Bioshock, and done a lot of Arkham Knight, but not all of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like they have much ties together?
Like dark, gritty worlds set in cities is what I'd say the ties between these three.
Perfect. That's the exact response that I wanted, because they share
Cool.
a common inspiration. About Hugh Ferris. Is this man familiar to anybody?
I had never heard of him until I heard you talk about him.
Yeah.
No,
so
I hadn't heard of them either.
he is. I feel like as an artist, as a person, not very well known, but a lot of his work was very influential. So you can see he was around from the 1889 through to the 1960s, but his most influential work was The Metropolis of Tomorrow, which came out in the 1920s. So yeah,
Can I ask?
this book.
I don't, I don't want to spoil your flow, but can I ask? I mean, was he connected with the film Metropolis?
I don't know if he had a direct connection.
Okay.
Like knowing the film Metropolis, if you have a slide image of it, I would say he'd have to be a pretty direct influence of it.
Yeah, so it
Looking
came
at some
out
of this stuff. Yeah.
a
It
year or
looks.
two, I think,
It
after
looks
the book did.
so similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an interesting, and you'll see it when we get into some of his work, but it's an interesting case where he and his art was very influential, but also he was basing things off of what was happening at the time, which I think helps create this sort of shared connectedness from the work.
So
But yeah, that's
I'm just seeing the text on that's a book, is it? The city
yeah.
could be made in the image of man.
Oh yeah, so that's a piece of work that he made, which is sort of tying into the end. So the book is probably his most influential work. It's a collection of his works and thoughts about the architecture of the time, especially in America. So part one, he studies existing and under construction buildings in major American cities. So we can see here we've got the Chrysler Building in New York, and then I believe this is the Chicago Board of Trade, and then the Telephone Building in St. Louis.
So this is very much. That's interesting. I mean, very much an architecture of its time, isn't it? So this is early 20th century. So the Chrysler Building on the right hand side. They're all very similar, aren't they?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big thing is this is sort of the birth of skyscrapers, right? Previous building techniques were very limited by height. If you look at the tallest buildings of the times, a lot of them are chapels and other religious buildings, and they have a very common look because to build as tall as they wanted, you had to have very specific architecture. But around this time, especially in America, steel was becoming a huge player in buildings, and it was allowing them to build taller. And so yeah, you'll see a lot of that influence through the art. And then yeah, I mean, this was one of the first times where cities were growing without having to necessarily expand wider. Cities could get taller, populations could get bigger, and the density would increase. So yeah, going into a city like Dante's descent into Hades. But yes, this is what we're talking about. Where the first part of this book and his work is all based on the context, the buildings happening around him. So yeah, we're seeing population density increase. Cities are getting more full of buildings, cars, and people, and it's becoming a bit of a concern.
So he's living on the cusp of the birth of the modern city, really.
Yeah, 100%.
And looking for ways to sort of fight these problems of what's seemed to be, overcrowding.
Yeah, so he was looking at the projected trends. So one of these is the legalities surrounding like zoning and that sort of stuff. And one of the big ones is light. As the skyscrapers were getting taller and more of them were being put into cities, less light would be able to come down and penetrate to the street level. And so there were laws put in place where essentially you had to have the buildings step back as they got taller so that there would be enough light trickling down. And so this is a series of works he did, 4 stages. So we have the first and the second stage here, and you can see how this process of him analyzing it sort of comes back and gets more angular and more pointed towards the top. So then we've got the third and the fourth.
Can you go back
stage.
to that previous slide?
If I press the right button.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Am I the only one who sees the combine's sort of metallic structure there from
Mhm.
Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
I mean,
now you
that's
say it, I do see that.
yeah. That's almost
Yeah,
like
yeah.
as soon as I said it, it's like that's the combines. I don't know what it is, but those, those things that brutally just plunge into the ground, those sort of
Yeah.
blue metallic things.
Yeah, and the walls that move to cordon off sections of the city. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um, and I mean, like, there's a broader conversation to be said around the way he illustrates these buildings. It's kind of not what you'd expect from an architect, right? Like, they're drawn, to me, they feel more like photographs taken from like a spy plane, like a early 1900 spy plane. It's like it feels like he snuck into an alien city and took these photos. Just the way the lighting is done and the grayscale nature of it.
And I want to point out the parallels of like the artistry of it. It's like he's almost sculpting. He's taking a base shape, which is in within the laws of the weight distribution and these light laws and stuff, and he's sculpting out a building each stage,
Yeah,
which is a rather interesting way to do it for an architect, in my mind, who are very sort of meticulous and particular about certain things. But I guess this is
yeah.
a very natural process to sort of reach that.
I didn't have the space to fit it in here, but one of the sections of the book, sort of mirroring this section on how they get tapered towards the top, is it's literally he does a similar like 4-stage process where he's molding the shape. So he starts with big blocks and then carves them into the shapes he wants. I don't. I feel like I remember hearing something where it's like he didn't really come up with many architectural plans, and I don't think he ever had a building made. But his art and his knowledge of architecture was so influential on other architects that you can see a lot of his influence on buildings.
Yeah, like he was the dreamer.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so those are the 4 stages, and then he combines that into this image. So you can kind of see in the mid ground we have the sort of final stage, but as you look towards the back, you can see those buildings in a more early stage.
Hmm.
And then so moving on, talking about density, do you all know the sort of idea of before the car became a big thing, there was this fear that New York would be drowned in horse poop?
Have heard of that, yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, there was a fear that New York was growing so much, and if every person had a horse and every horse poops a certain amount a day, by a certain population size, there would be so many horses that the poop would cover the whole city and, so much tall. Um, and obviously, we know in hindsight that never happened. Cars became a thing. We no longer needed the horses. But a similar fear sort of shows up at this time when skyscrapers were becoming a thing. And the question was, if cities keep expanding, how are we going to sort of maintain that density? So you can see on the left there, we have a bridge, but the bridge towers and structures, they're all built to be apartments. The idea that even traffic infrastructure would become integral to the city. On the right, we have towers, and then there are multiple steps of traffic, lanes of traffic. So the fear
Isn't
very much translated. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it, but I might be wrong on this, but I feel like a lot of Chinese architecture in cities are actually sort of integrating this very idea of having the traffic and living spaces sort of like the density all is all put together. I feel like I've seen a couple of videos recently of these different levels of specific cities in China. Don't quote me which ones, but
Yeah.
have these multiple layers of living, transport, another layer of living, and
Yeah.
that just jumped to my mind as I looked at this. So maybe
Mhm.
so this might be very early ideas of something
I
that
think
actually is starting to get.
those typically arise from cities that are very hilly, and
Yeah,
the density sort of forcing them to be built on top of each other rather
yeah,
than sort of, I guess it is in a similar vein, but we're looking at, somewhere like New York, which is a lot flatter.
hmm
But yeah, no, it is interesting how Yeah, I've seen those videos. You know, you like walk out of like the 15th story of a building, and there's like a road and a pedestrian crossing, and then you go
Yeah.
down to the ground floor, and then you can look down and see a road further down again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I
Yeah.
guess that's the design space is the landscape there, which they have to
Mhm.
design around.
And yeah, I think, yeah, kind of like 7 Days to Die. You're building on top of existing things, right?
Mm,
You have to be flexible and sort of layer things, because people are living there and you can't just start from scratch. But yeah, so that's his the lore of the city. I just had to put this image in because I think it is one of the few with a single sort of human subject. A lot of his work is either entirely architectural or people are sort of, it's more about crowds. Just one of my
the
favorite
human
images.
being is completely dwarfed by the city.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so you can see the quote there. He's sort of understanding that the city is gonna become bigger, and the trend is towards centralization. But so this, we were just talking about how existing cities have to build on what was already there. He came up with a plan to create a city from scratch. So if he could have an empty plot of land, how would it be built? And you can see the map there. The idea would be essentially you'd have a whole bunch of districts or centers. So a science center, a philosophy center, a religion center, the power center, the industrial center, and connecting them. Each center would sort of have its own skyscraper, and you connect those with buildings between. That was his sort of solution for the problems that he thought would be pressing civilization moving forward.
So, was there any specific reason that he used the Star of David in the middle of his thing there? Is it a bit of a Zionist
I'm
or
not
something?
sure.
I mean, it's quite interesting to see that right in the center there. It'd be good to know when this was done as well.
Yeah,
What
so the
is-
book was in 1926, 1926, I think.
This book here, that this is
Yeah, so any
Oh,
of the
so
works would have to be
before-
from.
before for Second World War, for
Yeah.
the Holocaust. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that's the book. It's really good, really influential. And yeah, I've got an actual hard copy. A rare thing to see these
nice.
days, I fear.
All right.
Which is where all of these are scanned from.
Is that an original from the 1920s, or is that a reprint?
No, that's a reprint of a reprint of a reprint, I think.
Right, right.
But yeah, so we're talking about inspiration at the start. I've got a few images here, and I think now you can really sort of start to understand. So we got Gotham City, a couple interpretations. Again, we're talking about things that have been actively, creatively engaged with for decades, some of these cases. So, we've seen all sorts of iterations of Batman's Gotham, but early versions, and some of the most prominent ones, are very inspired by this sort of metropolis, Hugh Ferris architecture. We've also got, that's a Blade Runner concept art in the top left, and then we've got Bioshock in the bottom right. Very, tall buildings, skyscrapers, they taper. But yeah, going back and forth between how much of this is Hugh Ferris inspiration, how much is that sort of the time, the golden age sort of influence. It's hard to separate those two things. And then Cyberpunk, I think, is a really interesting modern interpretation. Cyberpunk's got, its own very well detailed and thought out sort of law and justifications for things, but you still see things like the mega skyscrapers sort of in between. There's a couple images and ideas he talked about which I didn't manage to fit in the presentation, but about there were some architects who were saying, well, if we can build taller and taller, let's keep skyscrapers to one city block and just make them tall and thin. And then the trend at the time, though, was combining multiple city blocks to build what he was calling 2-block buildings. And so this idea that even though they can increase the density vertically, buildings were still trending to take up larger and larger footprints. And yeah, we kind of seen that in Cyberpunk. And then the last image there is a screenshot from Metropolis, which I thought really well encapsulated all the traffic in amongst the buildings.
Yeah. In saying that of the taller and taller and larger footprint, isn't that just a hard requirement of real world physics though? You can't just keep building something up and not increase the base, because as the weight gets bigger and bigger, you need to just evenly distribute it more and more. Like, I guess what I'm saying is it's not so much of a design choice as a necessity that we have to account for in these sort of ideas of these mega structures.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there is there's real world limitations that impact it, but at the time steel was such a new material. It was like you said, he was dreamer. He was really what can be done.
Sky was the limit. Yeah.
And there are techniques where you can sort of anchor it deep into the ground, which can reduce the footprint. But yeah, it is interesting, the difference between somebody who's like, well, here's practically what we're actually able to do, and somebody who's like, oh, but what promises can be made?
Yeah.
So Jeffrey's talking about Judge Dredd, which is, I was thinking about the same thing. Similar ideas, similar concepts. Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, that's I think what's been most interesting to me is it's been a big inspiration for a lot because of I just remember reading this thing where it was like essentially he got around the architecture circle in America really well, got on with a lot of people, a lot of architects really liked him, so his ideas got cemented in. But over time, I don't think a lot of these modern media, or even the older ones, were necessarily drawing on his art directly, but it's like it's a passed on of the genes of his style, I guess. One person knew the direct source, and well,
they all feel like sort of the natural progression of cities, right? Like what if it's bigger, what if it's taller, what if it's wider? That I think a lot of people thinking in that abstract space would sort of eventually come to, but it does seem like he was the first to really put pen to paper and get us real images to look at and draw that inspiration from.
Sort of permeated the whole community by the sound of it.
I do want to show a couple images, one of my favorites and then one of the most well-known ones. So if I go change stream,
we will need to wrap up at some stage.
Yes. So this is, you should be able to see that. That's so this is one of the 2 block towers, but you can see there's an archway with traffic in the middle. So he was really thinking, if buildings are going to have to be bigger, how do we accommodate the traffic? So we saw those overhead traffic ways, but we've also got a street running right through the middle of a building.
It looks very gothic compared to current. Like you've got the modern skyscraper, but you've also got the sort of, we haven't shaken off the sort of gothic trimmings that we had previously, saying you're still there, which makes them, I think that's what makes them look a bit eerie, because they don't have those nice slick, if you think of say Mirror's Edge, those nice slick glass covered skyscrapers. Instead we have these they're sort of speaking to a sort of an older history instead of modern.
Well, I feel like these might even be influenced from the the buildings, as we were saying at the start of this presentation, that like the first tall buildings were churches. They were these monuments to religion, and it looks like those are like definitely bleeding into the design styles here.
And he
with
did
all the lined and hard edges, and
one of the materials he was fascinated in was also glass, right? He wrote a bit there where he imagines a world or a time where glass isn't confined to a window, but it can be a wall in and of itself. So this is one of his material studies. So you can see the glass, sort of the full wall of glass, and all these buildings in the background made entirely of glass. So it's one of those things where, yeah, his sort of bias of the time, being so used to masonry and brickwork, that sort of leans into that Gothic for the towers. But when he forced himself to say, okay, well, what if glass became the big thing? This looks kind of, closer to what we know now, like these mirrored towers. I don't know what's happening with the sun, why it's eclipsed, but
it
adds to the vibe.
It's like the idea of the glass. This solves the light problem, right? The light shines through and nothing blocks out. So street level would always be being illuminated.
And if you do it wrong, you can melt a car. Have you heard about that building in London?
Yes,
it's curved in just the right way that it's like a magnifying glass, and when the sun
melted
hits
like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something.
It's something.
Yeah,
getting toasty.
Cool.
But yeah, that's
so definitely
Hugh
downsides
Ferris.
to the full glass.
Yeah. I don't know though.
Fantastic.
I don't know if I'd rather full glass or full Gothic. Maybe it'd be fun to visit the Gothic place, but a bit spooky.
Yeah.
Alrighty, fantastic. That looks great. So really interesting to hear. So Hugh Ferris is the architect, poet, and artist. Is that
Illustrator? Yeah.
Yeah, nice, fantastic. Thank you very much, Fraser. That was really interesting.
Thank you for letting me share.
No problem. So we are a bit late. We started late. We're finishing late. That's fine. Hopefully next week we'll be back at 3:30. We'll find out what happened to our technical issues there. But thanks everyone for coming around, checking it out, and we'll see you guys all same time next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Sounds real good. Thanks, guys. See ya.